Team coverage with the snowy conditions. Matt Renew up in the mountains right now in Breckenridge. Matt, how are things looking where you are? Last time we were seeing a nice little coating of snow on the roads.
Yeah, and again, it's still lightly snowing up here, Erica. It's sort of coming in pockets and moving in and out of the mountains right now. You know, overnight there was a significant amount of snow, depending on where you're at around Summit County. You know, Keystone, Breckenridge, Copper Mountain, all getting 2 to 3 inches of snow so far, and more is on the way. You can see Highway 9 here in Breckenridge, snow-packed, covered with those 2 or 3 inches of snow still. They've been working to clear the sidewalks and have plowed a few times, but there's a little bit of snow on the highway. And actually, if you're driving into the mountains so far this morning, not too bad depending on where you're at. In fact, a lot of places around Summit County, roads are still dry with this storm sort of just hitting in certain isolated areas around the mountains. That will change later on in the morning as the snow becomes more widespread and a little more impactful, and the skiers are going to do very well out of this storm, it sounds like, from the forecast, with at least doubling what they've gotten so far out of this storm. Breckenridge 8 inches in the last 7 days. Now they've got a couple more. They're going to add a little bit this afternoon and later on this morning. So this comes right as we start to enter our big snowiest months of the year, March and April. And Jordan and Corey, when those big spring break crowds start to roll into the high country, they're going to have some pretty good conditions. We're right about average right now for our snowpack, which is great considering how things started off. Not too bad, and now we got a little bit of fresh snow here in Breckenridge.
Yeah, of course, the ski resort's saying bring on the snow. The wind, not so much, that makes it difficult, but the snow is what they want. And it is just so picturesque behind you, Matt. It is gorgeous.
Look at that. Why don't I just step out of the way so you don't have to look at my face and you can see this beautiful Breckenridge scenery as the wind starts to pick up that you were just mentioning, Corey.
Well, you're gorgeous too, Matt. But that's really pretty right there. Thank you.
Matt, thank you. Conditions out there could not be more different than 24 hours ago, but the moisture coming into the state today bodes well for a wildfire still burning in El Paso County. That is the West Monument Creek fire on the grounds of the Air Force Academy. As of now, crews have it 50% contained. Crews say that the fire is no longer spreading and they just have some hot spots to deal with. The fire has burned about 160 acres. Strong winds the last couple days helped drive that fire and others here in Colorado, along with our neighbors out east. That's Nebraska on the left and Texas on the right. Both had their own wind-fueled wildfires to deal with in the last 24 hours, and both prompted evacuations. That fire in Nebraska led to 2 counties to declare an emergency. The Texas fire has burned about 40,000 acres, or about 62 square miles. Of course, you can take us with you to keep up with all of the changing weather and the travel conditions throughout this morning. You can download the 9 News app for free from either the Apple or Google Play stores. And you can also keep up with everything happening today on 9 News Plus.
Right now, the showdown for the Republican presidential nomination continues in Michigan. That state is holding its primary election today, and right now polls are open. Michigan is a key battleground state and will likely stay that way this year. On the Republican side, former President Trump hopes to continue his primary sweep against challenger Nikki Haley. On the Democrat side, some voters in Michigan plan to put President Biden on notice. They say they plan to choose uncommitted instead of Biden over his handling of the Israel-Hamas war.
They need to hear our calls and heed our demands and respond to what it is that we're asking for, which is an immediate and a permanent ceasefire.
This push is coming from a grassroots campaign that launched a few weeks ago. We'll get a better idea of their efforts after the polls close at 8 o'clock tonight Michigan time. After today's primary in Michigan comes Super Tuesday. It's 1 week out and includes more than a dozen states, including Colorado. And it's our state today where one Republican presidential hopeful hopes to drum up support. Today, Haley will be campaigning here in Colorado.
That's right. 9 News reporter Brianna Fernandez joins us now live from Wings Over the Rockies. Brianna, that's where she's going to be hosting a rally this afternoon.
Yeah, that's exactly right. So that event will start at 1:30 this afternoon. It's actually right near the Centennial Airport. It is free and open to the public. It's a 2-hour free event, so doors will open at 12:30 this afternoon. But if you do plan to come out, you just have to reserve your spot online. Again, it is free, but you just have to reserve a spot. So this stop comes just days after Nikki Haley lost her home state, South Carolina, and then hasn't won a single primary. Former President Donald Trump continues to dominate every contest, and the Colorado GOP has already endorsed endorsed Trump, calling him the likely Republican nominee. And former President Donald Trump's eligibility is still up in the air amid legal efforts to have him removed from Colorado's ballot. Now, the Secretary of State's office says unless the Supreme Court rules against Trump before the primary, votes for him will still be counted.
I've been very busy fighting and, taking the bullets, taking the arrows. I'm taking it for you, and I'm so honored to take them. You have no idea. I'm being indicted for you, as I say.
Donald Trump is turning the Republican Party into his own playpen, where it's all about him. And the RNC is being turned into the fact this is a slush fund for his legal fees.
Now, just a quick heads up, it is too late to mail in your ballot. You can drop it off at a drop box or vote in person. You have until March 5th, which is Election Day, and you have until 7 p.m. that night. Back to you guys in the studio.
All right, Brianna, thank you.
New this morning, another 52 migrants arrived in Denver Monday. That's according to the dashboard the city updates on a daily basis. The city's data also shows more than 2,400 people are in the city's shelters. As the total number of migrants the city has helped inches closer now to 39,000. As Denver continues to welcome those migrants, this morning Aurora is doubling down on its decision not to. The conservative majority on Aurora City Council passed a resolution Monday saying Aurora does not welcome migrants. The resolution reaffirms that Aurora is not a sanctuary city and adds the city doesn't have the resources to help migrants. Monday, the council took out a line requiring Denver or other places to ask for permission before transporting migrants there. The city attorney had warned them that it is unenforceable. The resolution passed 7-3. Meanwhile, as Denver faces budget cuts to pay for the migrant crisis, Mayor Mike Johnston hinted the city will start reducing services offered to new arrivals. Johnston said Denver could spend about $180 million. Earlier this month, he announced $5 million in cuts to the DMV and Parks and Recreation. More cuts are coming.
We have not made any final decisions yet on cuts other ones that we announced already. And so all of our departments, all of our agencies, we're going to have to find a way to prioritize. Our mayor's office has done the same thing.
We'll start to see the effect of those budget cuts at the DMV Monday. That's when you won't be able to renew your vehicle registration in person at DMV offices in Denver anymore. You'll have to do that online, by mail, or at a kiosk. Also, every office except the main office will close for 1 week every month to rotate the staff. We also asked the mayor about reports we received about layoffs at the Parks and Rec Department. Both his office and the department said no, but some employees may have their hours reduced, quote, to the point where they may not receive any hours.
This morning, Donald Trump is appealing the $454 million judgment in his civil fraud case. The appeal challenges the finding that the former president lied about his wealth as his empire grew. Trump's lawyers argue that the judge abused his discretion in his ruling against the former president and his company. If the ruling stands, Trump will be forced to give up a large chunk of his fortune. The Supreme Court could take on social media. Right now, the High Court is weighing arguments in a couple of cases. At the center of both are Republican-backed laws in Florida and Texas. Both want to restrict social media companies from banning or censoring users because of their political views. Both laws were passed in 2021, the same year that former President Trump was banned from Facebook and Twitter. A ruling on those laws isn't expected until June. And new this morning, Disney is facing a new lawsuit. This one is tied to a doctor who died after eating at a restaurant at Disney World. The lawsuit targets the park and the restaurant. The doctor, who was allergic to nuts, passed away after having an allergic reaction to the food that she ate. The lawsuit alleges a waiter guaranteed certain foods could be made allergen-free, and it states the family believed the restaurant would have cross-contamination safeguards in place. The family is seeking at least $50,000 in damages.
And one thing you want to know about the weather is, we have a cold front coming our way. It is just going through Fort Collins right now. It's moving pretty quick. And look what they have out in Fort Collins. See that pink shaded area? That is a snow squall warning as that snow really whips around as the front goes by. But you see right behind it, we'll start to calm things down, but it's all headed our way.